Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Alfonso Cuarón's new semi-biographical drama, Roma. Set in the early 1970s, the film recalls Mr. Cuarón's own upbringing in the middle-class neighborhood of Roma in Mexico City, and serves as a love letter to the women who raised him during a time of domestic strife and social hierarchy. In addition to writing and directing, Mr. Cuarón also co-produced, co-edited, and photographed the film. In addition to Roma, Mr. Cuarón's credits include the feature films Children of Men, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Y Tu Mama Tambien, Great Expectations, A Little Princess, and the pilot for the series Believe. He won both the DGA Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Feature Film and the Academy Award for Best Director for his 2013 film, Gravity. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Cuarón spoke with director Alejandro Iñárritu about filming Roma. During their conversation, Mr. Cuarón discusses conveying his memories cinematically, communicating with the crew and cast without a script, and finding the cast that matched the looks and the feel of the people from his life.
Wow, eh? It's for sure the best and more beautiful and profound movie that has come from our country. It is the most important rescue. It's almost an anthropological, an archaeological, emotional rescue, and a gift that Alfonso gave us to us. And as Mexicans, but I am sure to say that is maybe one of the best ever made films ever in the world for me.
Gracias, cabrón.
And I'm not saying this lightly because I think in the temple of the Tarkovskis and the Bergmans and the Kurosawas and the Rossellinis and the Hermanos Olmi, now this guy here, my friend, which I'm so privileged to have, it's in that altar, in the church of cinema. And I would like to start from something that I remember that almost 10 years ago, I think, once in Los Angeles, Alfonso was traveling from London to LA. We met. He had a dream, and he told me, I'm dealing with a lot of memories, personal memories, and has to do with my family and my father and things that I would like to put in a film. And it was a long time ago, and I would like to ask you, how was that process 10 years ago to start fabricating all these incredible slices of life and emotion, how that came together the way it is now?
Well, yeah, you remember that. That was part of the beginning of this whole thing. And at the time, I didn't do it. And I was, for a moment, certain that was going to be my next film, but the truth of the matter is that I didn't have the tools, and I'm talking about the emotional tools. And it took a while to go back to it. It was always lingering somehow, but it took a while because there's a point, and the reason why is age, It's as simple as that.
The white hair.
The white hair. And so I still had some salt and pepper then. And then it was this thing of, trying to understand who you are in terms of who you were. But also, in a broader sense, also existence. Trying to, it's just such a mysterious thing, existence. In the sense of There's not an easy answer for anything. But at the same time, it was this thing. I mean, it's how existence puts people together, because time and space limit us. They create the boundaries that we cannot transgress, but at the same time, they put people together. And it was this thing of how the heck this woman who is my mother in many ways, and there's this bond of affection when she comes from a complete different microcosm, a complete different universe than mine. And it was this process of memory, but I didn't have the tools in the sense of I was afraid to do this film then.
But you know what I found fascinating? I think that's the most difficult thing as all of us here that as directors, I think one of the toughest and most difficult decisions to take is which point of view to tell a story, right? Or to tell these slices of emotional moments. And because I think you were clarifying your memory, as you said, and these painful moments and significant moments that had a weight in a precise moment in your life. But I think the most beautiful, and that's why I think this film is an act of love, is because how it happened that you choose to tell that part of your childhood and your personal emotional memory of this moment through Libo, through that character that you gave her that point of view of seeing a family collapsing as she is collapsing, that these two lonely women. But when you give her the gift to be the witness of your childhood and your family, how that happened, because I think that's what really turns the things completely in the poetic. It's elevated. It's not you telling about you. It's you being observed by the people that love you more and that you love more in that moment. And I think that's a fantastic, beautiful thing. So it's like two questions that I would like to ask you. How you arrived to that, how you give it that weight to her, and cinematically, how you decide, how was your process to know how the camera will be acting in this movement, to be always with her but not abandoning you, which I think that's an act of balance that is incredibly masterful here. Very, very powerful.
Thank you. Well, I was not interested about doing a film about myself in the sense of following my point of view, and actually my character is quite secondary. I was really interested about doing a film about Libus, the name of the real person that the character Cleo is based upon. And it was clear that it was that because in many ways embody many of the other things. Coming to terms with my existence had to be coming to terms with my family, my city, my country, and also ultimately it's my place in the universe, and there's this complexity of a person like Libo, in which embodies all these joys and horrors and contradictions that is part of what humanity is about. On one hand, she goes through immense pain and never letting go the best part of humanity, that's that empathy and generosity. She belongs to a social class. Her background is a social class that she comes from a very, 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 very poor background. I would say extreme poverty. And on top of that, it's clear she's a woman. And on top of that, she has an indigenous background that in Mexican society is a triple whammy of disadvantage, of social disadvantage. And I would say that that's not only Mexican society. I think that this perverse relationship between class and race permeates the whole world, in different tones and colors, but it's pretty much the same. And but that's part also about who we are. It's part of humanity. You wish and you want to believe in. You hear rhetorics right now of hate and division and that compassion and empathy is exclusive for certain groups of people. And you want to believe in a world in which everything is fair. And humanity has never proven that to be even a possibility. And so life is absolutely meaningless. There's not a really an easy answer. And actually, as it doesn't have any meaning, the only hope is, and the only thing that gives any meaning is those bonds of affection.
And I felt it all the time because I have seen the film 3 times. This was the 3rd time, but it's the 3rd time the first one that I see it with an audience, and it felt very, very powerful and very different. And the reason is because suddenly, as you are saying, is something that I love is. Just for you to understand, in our country, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the government was controlling cinema. And there were few outdoors or filmmakers that deliver film like that. And in a way, middle class was the bourgeois. And we never had a film that in a way portrayed the ordinary middle class family, which is so complex in the middle of society that has the indigenous made, the middle class. And then what you did was not only to portray the intimacy of that microorganism of society that represent the DNA of our Mexico, but all the macro politics at that time that was happening in 71 with the students and all the corruption. So the film started growing little by little until it portrayed the whole country through the eyes of normally a very forgotten character that never exists. It feels almost like a novel for me. Every scene is like a chapter. And you don't want to go out. You said you keep going, and so many things. And something that it was for me relevant this time is how you deliver the emotional moments in the most beautiful times that they are living. Like the mom bring them to the beach, and in that celebration, she said the truth about it. What's really happened with their father, which is absolutely brilliant. Or Cleo said her internal emotions through the creature that she lost in the moment that he has just rescued that. So the way you planted those emotional cards in those moments, is that something that is part of what you are saying, that the unbalance of that? Is there something about that or no? Or
it's definitely that. It's just and that is the amazing mystery. And in every film I have done, it's very easy for me to express what the film is about. Gravity is, an astronaut is just lost and void and needs to go back to Earth.
Would you make an homage to your film that was inspired here? That was funny.
No, actually, Gravity is an homage to that film, to Maroon. That is an amazing film. You should see Maroon.
Now we know where you stole it.
You saw the shot, and by the way, I have Gene Hackman in my film, if you notice. No. I forgot what I said. It's just you speak so beautifully, man.
No, I want to say that something that for me was relevant today that I didn't notice is this little kid, which is an amazing actor. I mean, he's the most natural kid I have seen in many years. But always the relation with Cleo is so beautiful because the talks that always they have between them are super profound and premonitions of what is happening. And it's so beautiful when he said, before I grew, when I was older, when he know what he was before he born. And then she said, I'm dead. And then she said, well, it's feeling good to be dead. And things, or when there's a lot of premonitions that I think the kid always, or in the beach, he said, I was about to be drawn. So I catch that suddenly he is informing something to her in a way. Is that something that is obviously that, right?
Yeah, probably. The truth of the matter is, again, because I cannot pinpoint what the film is about, because I know I was curious about following Cleo, but as a point of departure for her to trigger my own memories. The process of doing this film was, 80 or 90% of the scenes come out of my memory. So it was first a very introspective process of just, instead of doing the research, you know how sometimes I do, a lot of research, and sometimes for bad, because doing too much research sometimes can be very dangerous. In this one was the research was just memory. And when I felt that I was ready, I just wrote the script without looking back. I start page 1, I finish it, I never read it again as a whole. I never share it with anyone.
This is the first time that I didn't share it with Guillermo and me, so please never do it again. Keep doing these kind of films.
No, the truth of the matter is that I knew that Guillermo and you were going to give me amazing notes about how to make it better, just in terms of narratives and details and stuff. But I was afraid of derailing something that I felt that I have just to honor. And a lot of those scenes that you're talking about, they just happen like that. I understand that, by the way, I was just trusting that, or being arrogant or responsible, that I have built in my career a narrative muscle that will take care of the rest. Because part of the thing, and then every time how was the approach, the cinematic approach, was trying to connect to that memory. And to try to convey cinematically those memories. I didn't want to be subjective. I didn't want to be nostalgic. And from the early on, when Chivo was still involved, it was this whole thing of, okay, there's going to be parallel dollies, but not dollies in and out, because that's a very subjective move. We have to stay aloof and distant. As if a ghost from the present is visiting the past and is just observing, what is going on. And hoping that somehow something was going to come out of this. But also I wanted to dust off my process. We have many conversations many times about I shelter myself. I put safety nets sometimes, Some are narrative, genre, or certain kind of dynamics, And here I wanted to do a process without safety nets, a process that I really didn't know how to do. And part of the process was that, and then it was about not sharing the screenplay with anyone, not only with you and Guillermo, but with anyone. The actors never had the screenplay. The crew never had the screenplay. So what was happening is that forced more conversations and more conversations about memory and the past, while we were prepping. And it was about, rather than reading a description, having to talk about what it was like, And then the funny thing with when you talk like that, the memory of the person starts to get activated, and it's just kind of everything starts building up.
It's just so brave from you, because in a way, it's how can I say it? For me, for example, the way you have been always very obsessed, and we start talking about this, about the anti-narrative film, like how the film can be liberated from narrative, in the sense that is the plot and all those structures that are now very, they have to have it, first act, second act, third act, the twist, the page 190, and all that that is kind of the book to make cookie cutter things, and how to liberate everybody from that in order to arrive to film with that, but it's not easy. And I think what I was thinking is, you were not worried about that, and I think you liberate yourself from that. You didn't have any net of the structure, and that's why you didn't consult anybody to say if it's right or not. There is no right or wrong in memory. It is what it is. But to jump in it and to make a film like this is another thing. But there's...
And at the end up with 3 acts and the whole...
No, what I want to say is I cannot find a better emotional narrative in a film in the last 20 years that I have seen. So there's a flowing that is an emotional river that is going from a creek to a river and to the ocean in the 400 blows homage that I think you did there. And I was, so I mean, let's put it this way. Start with a drop, right? In that shot there. And it start with this water. And then it's a creek, and then it's always the rain in Mexico with then the ice, and then the river, and then the ocean, and then you take her to the sky. So I mean, but it's emotionally with a congruence and a narrative and a rhythm that is pure melody. There is no plots and rhythms no, it's melody like a symphony. So in a way, you did not liberate from narrative. You just discover your internal narrative.
No, I think narrative is fantastic. I just think that there's an artificiality narrative that is. We have talked about that a lot, about how sometimes films are hostages of that artificiality.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and how to liberate. And narrative is fantastic. It's one of the greatest tools of cinema. You know, the problem is when cinema becomes just a media to illustrate a narrative. Mm-hmm. Exactly. You know, or it's a media in which narrative is certain kind of, there's a sense of artificiality that is a safety net. It's one of the safety nets I was telling you before, you know, and yeah, it was about trying to, but you know, we talked what I was doing, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing.
Exactly. No, it's true. But that's the beautiful thing about it. And what I love, for example, how I love that car, that Galaxy car, is so oppressive. It's like a monster. So it's the father arriving and smoking and the whole thing. It's a monster. And then the dog shit there is starting to get all the house start full, the shit spread all around, and the car going in, and then she take the car and destroy that, all that section, and then the kid premonition with her, all that, the first development of that through the car. That, I mean, you just jump into that to shoot one of the most beautiful scenes of 4 or 5 minutes of a guy going into a garage. And it's terrifying. How you do that?
Welcome to my life. That was my life.
You were in the galaxies, and that's why you did then.
The funny thing is that when Guillermo said that, says, "Oh my God, that was like my house."
Yeah. I have a house. We were, by the way, neighbors. He was in La Roma, and I was in La Narvarte. So I was in Uxmal, so we were kind of neighbors. We never crossed at that time. You were the guy of the galaxy, right?
No, I was the guy. No, but this is the thing. I mean, it's very clear because that galaxy, we had that galaxy, but it's very clear that it's a car too big for the garage, with all the social implication of that. Exactly. You know, there's a certain pretentiousness. Same time is that is charged not by 8 cylinders, but the 8 testosterones that are like going on there, you know, and that it has even the crown of the patriarch, you know, and it's the present. You don't see the father until the end of that, and also meanwhile it's kind of like a penetration. Yes. It's going through this, you know, invading the whole corridor like that, you know. And the same, and he's so careful about the car, but then he's completely aloof with the family.
Yeah, no, it's. I think the portrayal of men in this film is so real and so tough because he's just men that are not committed, men that abandon, men that lie, that are brutal, and that's something culturally very, very, very powerful and very strong. The social class of her. I would like to talk about the discovery that you made with Cleo, because I think she deserves an applause. It's amazing.
Cleo is amazing.
Every frame, I think she sustained every. So you can put the camera in silence, and just when she's hearing the doctor, or she's just a gravitas that is, and she has never performed. How you get there, her? Because I think is the film. I think she's the heart of the whole thing.
Without her, this wouldn't work. And exactly. I was just so lucky when I met her, because I have been casting for months and months and months, and different states in Mexico, having armies of casting crews going through all villages, small villages. And when I saw her for the first time, the thing is, part of the process is that the rules that we were going to shoot in the places where the actions took place more than 40 years ago, as much as possible. Some were completely destroyed or non-existent. And we were going to cast people that they look alike as much as possible to the real people, but also that they feel alike. And that was a challenge because you will meet people that they would kind of look like, but they wouldn't feel like. And when I saw her for the first time in a video, I said, wow, this is really, this is Cleo. And when I met her, it was one hand I was relieved. I said, okay, I have Cleo. And I was like a few weeks before I started shooting. And then terrified that she would say no. And actually, she was not really interested. She had just finished studying as an educator for the villages around, and she didn't know who I was, and so she was not impressed at the least, and and I think what helped a lot is that I said, okay, there's a character who's just your coworker and your best friend. Who's your best friend? And says, oh, it's Nancy. Can we meet Nancy? And then Nancy came, and it was fantastic when I met Nancy. And said, well, I would love you to do it. And she gave me the most honest answer. Look, I just finished studying, and the applications for the jobs are not going to come because it's a government kind of situation, this whole thing. The applications are not going to come for our generation for the next 8 months. I have nothing better to do.
Just call my agent. It's both of them because they exude bondad, like beauty or kindness, right? There's a kindness, there's a truthness in her relation with the kids, with herself. And
but that was her, and it was her, but also understanding the character. She met with Libo, and she talks about how she was a bit hesitant and a bit scared, but when she met her, she said, if she has put so much heart to this family, I'm going to put the same heart for this film.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And how impressively every frame, every design is hypnotic, and the sound of the whole thing, we can talk about so many things, but I would like to ask you, how it was for you to jump and to be the DP in your own film, and how you missed Chivo, but because what you did, I think she was fired forever now, I think. What's going on? I mean, this film really, I know that you miss him a lot, but I think the job that you did is just unbelievable. How was that experience for you? And let us know how you decide to go in 65, in digital, black and white, and how you managed that. How was the experience as a photographer in this case?
As you know, Chivo, the thing is that Chivo started prepping the film. And I actually planned this film for Chivo. I budgeted for Chivo, thinking in Chivo, well, with you as well, there's always the same concern and complaint. That is, well, he has many complaints, but...
He don't like tacos anymore.
Yeah.
He's sushi guy now.
Yeah. Many complaints, but there's...
Expensive sushi, by the way.
The biggest thing, and is since we started making film together, like when we were teenagers, it was time to do things, time to prep the film, time to shoot the film, time to do the DI at the end of the process. He's always asking for more time and stuff. So I designed that for Chivo. The byproduct of that is that we start prepping, and I start realizing, no, we need more prep time. We start looking for locations and so on, and said, we need more shooting time. And we kept extending everything until he said, I cannot do this film anymore. I have other commitments. And that was, you remember, it was maybe 2.5 weeks before I started shooting.
Yes. And you were looking for first people.
And it was my fault because he started warning me like before. And I didn't want to believe, I didn't want to let Chivo go. And I said, no, let's try. Maybe if talk to the other productions, see if they go back behind and stuff. And I corner myself. Chivo says that is because I knew and that I knew from the get-go.
I have a good news. The next month, for all of you guys, you can hire Alfonso as a DP. He's
want
cheaper,
to hire me.
He's cheaper than Chivo.
I know, definitely. No.
I can hire you as a DP next time?
Yeah, let's do that. No, but for me, I have to say, for me was really, I have a background of, I started doing as a DP in film school, and then I did, when I was in TV, I did a lot of DPing and even on my own shows. Never done a whole feature film. And after the first week that the first 3 days that I was uncomfortable with my role, I didn't know. I was used to delegate, I don't talk to the gaffer. I respect that Chivo thing. Now I have to talk to the gaffer because, and then after that, I had a blast. I really had a blast. For me, it was easy. The problem, the crew had 2 Alfonsos. Yeah. That's not good.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
No, both were Mr. Hyde.
I have to say that it couldn't happen. I think it happened for a reason, right? Because I think that's the only way. I think Chivo will have maybe alter your dreams as maybe Guillermo and I for whatever. I think it meant to be you digging and taking and sharing with us a piece of your heart and your soul. And he's just, I know you for so many years, and the gift to give us something so personal, so unique, so fragile, so brave to share something like that. And in that category of poetry, it's like the prose is just, everything is poetic. I think that it has to be for you, it has to be an emotional journey. How emotional it was for you to shoot this film in the set? Did you detach yourself emotionally? Could you do that?
This is the thing, is that it's like making movies. You start and you have the idea, you start going just into your memories, and slowly I didn't realize how I was becoming more introspective. And in many, there was a period, you remember, we were not talking so much. I was like completely disappeared.
You disappeared.
Yeah.
You still disappeared. You are gone.
Yeah. And
I visited you in the set.
No,
you were gone. I visited him in the set. He barely say hi, and then I just feel like crazy guy. Yes.
No, but before that, and then you start, okay, we need to find actors, locations, and stuff. You're not thinking about what you're doing. At that point, you just want to put all the elements together. You're not really connecting emotionally. You just want to find the things. The elements. It's just, as you all know, is a pain. It's and the more detail, and also doing a period film in a city that is completely transformed, it was such a challenge, finding the actors. And then finally we start shooting, and I find myself as a DP. So the beginning of it, I was trying to cope with my 2 hats until I start flowing at the end of the first week. But I was still like, oh no, now I remember that tile was not like that. Let's change the tile, and maybe the first 2 weeks were still like fine tuning the house while we were shooting, and the wardrobe and stuff. And there was maybe around week 3 that everything started to flow. So you're not that concerned about the logistics. And it was then that suddenly one day I realized, what am I doing here? The house I grew up with, the furniture that I grew up, the paintings, with actors that they just look like my family 40 years ago, dressed exactly the same, and also recreating these scenes that a lot of them were kind of not pleasant for me, and yeah, I became kind of you were there.
But I can imagine that there's a cost emotional. It hits you in a way. Did your brother and sister still talk to you now? No, did you involve your family?
Well, yes, I have to. Well, first of all, if I was going to do something about Libo, I said, hey, are you okay with this? And And it was amazing just having endless conversations, digging into. I learned in this process of Libo more than I have ever learned in my life, my other, 50-something years of life. But that happens, I guess, if anybody does a film about your parents. And I'm thinking now about Cold War of Pavel Pawlikowski, in which he's about his parents. Because when you're doing something, you're forced to detach yourself from just being father and son or mother and son, and you have to see them as individuals, as a man or as a woman with longings, desires, a sexual life, flaws, and that happened with Libo, but also more importantly, for the first time, I guess I recognized her as a woman, and as a woman from this very rough background in terms of economics, and as an indigenous woman, and I have never stopped to for a second to think how tough that must be,
Well, I think they are pushing us. I think we can be here for hours. I want to say that for me, this is a dream and a memory and part of your heart. I don't think this is a film. I think you just use film as a medium to give us and to land and to impregnate your dream, your memory, and your heart with us. So I think I will not want to call this a film. I would like to call him we will have to invent some name for this film because it's not just a film. So thank you, Alfonso.
Gracias, Alejandro. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more from director Alejandro Iñárritu, check out episode 6, where Mr. Iñárritu discusses his DGA award-winning film The Revenant with director Darren Aronofsky. You can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have a lot more for you in the coming weeks as awards season approaches, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you're enjoying our podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.